Hi, my name is Dee. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to use the offering-based export functionality. You need the Application Implementation Consultant role to perform this task. I've completed my implementation, so now I want to move my implementation to another environment using the offerings-based export functionality. I'll start by navigating to the Setup and Maintenance work area. You can export the setup data for the entire offering, which is recommended when deploying an initial implementation. If you export setup data for the entire offering, setup data for all enabled functional areas and features in the offering is exported. Alternatively, you can export setup data for a single functional area, which is mostly used for maintenance or incremental implementations. This is what I want to do. My previous exports are shown here. Since the data was modified since the last export, I'll create a new export. If the data had not changed, I could just use the previous export. By default, all setup data relevant to the functional area and its enabled features is exported. I can limit the export scope as needed using business objects to filter the setup. The business objects available here vary based on the functional area. Let's filter the setup data for organization structures by business unit. Here's the business unit I want to use. I want to add one more scope value to my list. I'll search for the Application Servers business unit. I'm finished defining the scope, so I'll submit the process now. And my process is submitted. The status of the most recent export appears at the top of the page, but that might not always be the status that I want to monitor. Instead, I'll monitor the status from the functional area so that I know I'm looking at the correct process. And here is my process. This warning indicates that my process is still running. Let's view its progress. I'll just refresh to see if my export has completed. Great, it was successful. If any business objects have setup data that I have to export manually, they'll be shown here. This might happen if no service is available for the business object. This information is useful for planning purposes. I've verified that the setup data was exported successfully, so now I'll download the export file and use it to import the setup data into the environment to which I want to migrate my implementation. The export file is named using the offering and functional area names followed by the date when the setup data was exported, but I can change the name if I want to. I'm going to leave the default name. And my file is downloaded, so I'm done. Now I'm ready to import my setup data. Thank you for watching.